Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to create this watercolor illustration in the app IBIS PAINT X. I'll be giving step-by-step instruction along with the brushes detail I used. So let's get started. First, I'm going to open a F3 canvas, my IBIS PAINT X app, and in the first layer I'm going to draw the basic structure using the basic shapes like circle, square, rectangle like that. So I want to keep the illustration symmetrical in both left and right. So I'm using the mirror ruler for this. And here first I'm going to draw the car. So for drawing car, I'm going to make um, the shape with basic rectangles and squares like this. And we can adjust the height using this transform tool. And here for each part I'm going to draw a rectangle because almost all the parts in the car looks similar to the rectangle shape, and we have to adjust the curves at the corners like that we'll see in the next layer. And in first layer it's only the basic shapes. So now reduce the opacity of the layer, and in the new layer I'm going to draw the car shape. And here I'm using the felt tip pen hard brush. So again, this is going to be our reference layer. We will not add this layer in the final illustration, so don't worry about that. Make shapes, make multiple strokes, no issue about that, because we're not going to this layer is not going to be visible. Right. So here you can see, using the basic rectangles, I just made some curves, shapes, and added those details like this. Now the car structure is over, and in the new layer I'm going to draw the cute dog here. And so this is going to be like a cartoon style, so I'm keeping the dog in big size and car in the small size, so that it make it more cute. Also, for the dog as well, I'm keeping the mirror ruler on, so all the details going to be symmetrical on left and right. Drawing the eyes, eyebrows. So for eyebrows I'm just drawing like a oval. And if you feel you didn't get the perfect shape, using the liquify tool you can adjust the shape like this. Here I'm going to draw the ears like this. And now I'm going to draw the neck part, and here I'm just drawing the dress like this. And I'm making it a little bit bigger now. So if you want to keep it in the same position but make it bigger, just use the transform tool without using the move option. Instead use the zoom to increase the value, and the size will increase, but the object remains in the same place. So now I'm going to merge those two layers, and now again this layer acts like a reference for us. And in the new layer I'm going to draw the shapes with only one stroke at a time like this. So we have to draw this perfectly because I'm going to use this layer for selecting using the magic wand tool and apply colors. Also in the final outcome, these lines will appear. So draw perfectly, use the felt tip and hard brush. Don't make multiple strokes, and if you feel you made a mistake, just erase and redo this. So it looks like there is so much process going on for creating this illustration. I'm just creating 2-3 references. You may think like that, but to till you get a perfect shape, till you get better in character designing or creating such kind of artwork, you have to make multiple layers so that you get the perfect one. If you try to draw everything in a single layer, if you want to make everything perfect in a first layer itself, it's very difficult as a beginner. So make step by step progress, so you will get better in this kind of artwork. So now the lining is over. Now I'm just renaming this as reference layer, and now I'm going to draw a base for this. So as I already told, so if I going to save this as a PNG, okay, save this artwork as a PNG, and I'm going to use the watercolor. For that, if I didn't apply any base white color, the watercolor will be like more transparent, and if you're using that PNG in any other pattern design or something like that, that background color will be affected. That background color will affect this element or this watercolor. So make sure you apply the background color like this in a separate layer. Either you can use the brush to trace like this and fill, or otherwise the other way is using the magic wand tool. You can select all the areas, but the problem with this is there is still the gap that is created by these lines, because this magic wand tool select only that area, will not select the lines that we have drawn. So to select that lines, once you selected everything using the magic wand tool, go to lasso tool and select the space lines that are inside the shape. At the corners we don't need to use this lasso because already selected. Now apply, make sure you use the current layer option in the bucket tool, and now our base is ready. And in the new layer, that's going to be a watercolor layer, I'm going to draw using the watercolor brush. So here I forgot to add the headlight, so adding it. Now switch off the mirror ruler, we don't need that anymore. And now go back to reference layer using the magic wand tool. Make sure you use the current layer option and select one by one. Select this area, fill with color, and release that selection and move on with the next selection. So like that we have to do for all this process. And some may find this useful, some may find this process as very difficult. So it's up to you. It's my way of artwork, it's my way of watercolor drawing. So if you have any other techniques, you can share in the comments, or also you can tell me what are the changes that I can make, or what are the topics I have to share in this channel. You can tell everything in the comment section. So now using the watercolor bleed brush, I'm making some shades here like this. So make sure when you use the watercolor bleed brush, you have to reduce the opacity as minimum as possible, because that brush is really strong, not like that of the watercolor edge brush. So it's going to give you dark shade, so keep that opacity minimum. And now release selection in the lasso or magic wand tool. Now go back to your reference layer and select that area and come back to your watercolor layer. Why I'm doing this in a separate layer is because now if you draw everything in the reference layer itself, you paint in the reference layer itself, and if you want to make changes again in that particular area, and if you use the magic wand tool, it will select the texture that we applied, so we no longer able to select the entire shape like rectangle like that once you applied the watercolor. So that's why I keep the reference layer as separate and watercolor layer as separate, because we feel difficult to select the area using the magic wand tool. So now I'm just selecting these areas one by one. The process is going to be very easy. First, using the watercolor edge brush, I'm going to add the textured strokes like this. Don't make a single long stroke, instead make a small stroke that will give you beautiful texture like this. You can feel that watercolor texture here. And just blend if you have too much textures using the watercolor water brush. And for shading, you're going to use the watercolor bleed brush. So only 3 brush, and more often I simply keep that as a 2 brush, watercolor edge brush and watercolor bleed brush. If you feel where the texture is too much, there is too much details that you don't want to have, then in that case you can go for watercolor water brush to blend them well. Now, so I forgot to add the shadow here. So now this look like this without the line strokes. So I'm going with a little more dark color here. You're using the watercolor bleed brush and adding the shadow details. If you want to add some highlight details here, more often in in the watercolor painting, I don't use separate layer for the highlighting or shadow. Instead, if you want to have the highlight details, which means very light color, white color details, then I make the color very light in that areas using the watercolor edge brush, and for shadow details I apply using the watercolor bleed brush, but everything in a single layer. So I don't use separate layer in the way I use for another illustrations. Most often I use 2 layers like shadow layer and highlight layer. For highlight layer I use the add blending mode layer, and for shadow layer I use the linear blending mode layer. So I don't follow that technique when it comes to watercolor. Now you can also add such details using the watercolor bleed brush. This detail is very small but have beautiful outcome. You can see the difference between a normal black color tire and here how the strokes make a big difference. Yeah, the car is completed and we have to draw a paint for the dog now. So I'm going to first select this dress. Again, I'm going to use the same stroke details here, but this time this stroke going to be smaller. So keep it small, keep it dark, and make strokes like this. Add some shadow like this. Yeah. Now for color, if you feel if you mistakenly added that details in the reference layer, just click on the copy when you are in the selection and paste it, and move that layer next to your watercolor layer and move them together. That's the process I done now. Sometimes what happens, I forgot to move back to the watercolor layer when I applying watercolor details. So I just paint everything in the reference layer itself when selection is on. In that case, I will do this copy paste thing. Now for face, select this area. I will go here. So the dark color going to be very mild. First of all, I thinking of creating dark colored dog, but after that, once I started painting, I feel like the dress is also dark, and if I draw the dog in the dark color, everything going to be like dark. So when it comes to color theory, keeping everything in almost in the same color will not look good. For example, here you can see for car I used two contrast colors like mild blue and something like a terracotta color. So this gives us a beautiful contrast. So one has to be very light, one has to be very dark, and that both has to be in the alternate manner. Don't keep every blue details at the top, every brown details at the bottom. Don't keep in such a way. Instead, you do them in the alternate way, like blue, next comes some terracotta details, then blue again. So this gives a beautiful contrast and it looks really great. In the same way, for dog itself, I'm doing the same thing. The face is going to be very light, and for dress it's going to be dark. So for ears, so we almost completed the artwork. Only few things are bending. Neck and inside of ears. I'm using the watercolor brush, watercolor edge brush. Actually, here I'm using the watercolor bleed brush. And comes the mouth part. Like this. Now I'm going to add little bit of blush here. So using the watercolor bleed brush. This. The nose. Select this. Also select eyes, eyebrows, either you can select those areas and apply the color, or otherwise you can simply use the felt tip and hard brush. So here again you can see I'm using the felt tip and hard brush to fill these areas. If you want to have some texture, then you cannot use this. Instead, you have to go for the watercolor brushes. For example, you can see in the nose we have some texture, but we don't have any texture in the eyebrows and eyes. Now, I forgot to add the detail for headlight. Now you can see by changing the opacity, it almost get mixed with the watercolor. So for the final look, you can just reduce the opacity, change the color little bit by switching on the alpha lock and filling the stroke with particular color, or change the blending mode, like I changed it to multiply blending mode. Adding little bit of dots here, also here. And so for nose, I'm going to use the white color and felt tip and hard brush. And here, mouth. Okay, it's almost done. Now you can see as PNG it looked like this. It came out really well. Now save this as PNG and save this as transparent PNG. I'll show you one by one. Here comes the PNG, which actually is the JPG format. I love the texture here. And here comes the transparent PNG. So if you want to make some clip art or anything for pattern design, you can use this. And I hope you like this tutorial, learn something new from me. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel.